Nothing.
They know.
Yeah.
It's like fourth time we had to repair that window. Fourth time we replaced that window, guys.
Oh my God. Yeah. What a story.
Code red. He's on the street.
Again.
Okay.
Yeah, what a story. So let me introduce you. Jonathan, you're an award-winning producer for films and television shows, stories that uplift and move us and make us think. And you're also a founder and managing partner at the Hero Squared, that is a Budapest-based production company. And you recently won an International Emmy Award for your television series called Fallen.
Correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And so, also, if those interested in seeing you in person, there's great news for them. You will present in Budapest a film industry session at the Green Room on March 20th.
It's hard to believe anyone would want to come see me that badly, but please do. That would be great. It'd be great. It'd be great to see people there.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been at the place in my career where people like came out to an event to see me. So, but you know.
Well,
let's do it.
I
can be provocative, so.
I would also love our listeners to be there. So for those or anyone interested, I should say that there's a link in the description below where you can get tickets. And with that said, Jonathan, thanks for taking the time and welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
How are you doing?
You know what's funny is your last question you're going to ask me, I'm going to build off of that.
Last question?
When you get to the last question, which questions do you wish people asked more often? I'm going to come back to.
I think you're going to be you're going to hold a special place in my heart for that, because I perfected this kind of question over the years. Mm-hmm. Many interviews have passed by, and I was like, okay, what is the perfect question that is hard at the same time but easy when you get to it?
I mean, I could do the last question first, though.
Do you want to, or do you want our listeners to have a
it's your
hook
show, my
to?
Friend.
Okay.
I could spoil the ending right now.
Oh my God. Okay, let's not do that.
No, let's not spoil the ending. I think the ending is poignant, and I think we should end on the poignant.
Okay.
So, but I think we should start with the real first.
The real thing. Thank you for the baseball. I got it. I'm one of those.
No, the
people.
Softball. It's the softball.
Oh, it's the softball.
It's the hitting the softball.
Awesome. It's gonna be a home run anyways. So yeah, because you and I are here. So and we make it run. So yeah.
Right.
And so you and the people you work with make us travel in space and time, often to imagine lands that make us see the life of characters that are perhaps unlike us, or perhaps characters that we all can relate to.
Yeah. And I thought that was actually a very beautiful thing that you wrote. And I wanted to specifically talk about it because I'm in this business for one reason. I love movies. And I love movies since I was a kid. And the reason I love movies so much, and I learned later storytelling so much, is that you can transport someone to another place. And I was a kid, and I didn't want to be in this place. I wanted to be transported to another place in time. And I watched as many movies as I could, and I was transported away as much as I could from my bad situation, whatever that was. And I want to do that for others. If I can do that for one kid or one person who doesn't, want to be in their situation, just needs a break, needs 2 hours where they go somewhere where they laugh, where they cry, where they go to a safe space, which used to be a movie theater. And I wish people would go in movie theaters again, in droves, go to a safe space where you can just sit there and feel. That's what I want to accomplish by making movies.
That's an amazing inspirational attitude, and I love that. Congratulations for that.
Well, that's why I do what I do.
I can already see you as a hero of many stories.
Wow, that's the company name. There's two of us in Hero Square. Danny and I are partners, and I met him when I came to Hungary, and we formed Hero Square together.
Amazing. And so with every hero and every person, every character, there's an origin story. I want to travel back in space and time with you, if that's okay.
Yes, let's do it.
Back to what time? 1995. You were a freshman at the University of Maine. At what point do you get involved in the film club, and what happened there?
Yeah, that was not the most interesting of stories, really, because the film club was incredibly small, and it kept, the University of Maine is not, big university. It was honestly, it was what I could afford. I grew up in poorer circumstances. You know, certainly there are people with less off, but it was not a great circumstance. And I went where I could afford to undergraduate. And later on, we'll talk about NYU, which is a completely different experience, but I went to a place I could afford. It was $4,000 a year. That's what we could afford. And I didn't want to take out big student loans. So I went someplace that I think, you know, my classmates or my peers today would find to be, you know, maybe that's a disappointment to go to a state school like that. But that's what I could afford. And so that's what I did. And I didn't honestly take it that seriously because I was, in general, you know, my mother was a teacher and she taught at schools that were private schools so I could go to private school, so I could afford to go to private school because I couldn't. So because of my mother, I got a great education. And I was a little bit ahead, and then when I went to state college, I kind of, I don't want to say blew the whole thing off, but I didn't take it that seriously and didn't need to. And later on when we talk about grad school, I think it's a little more interesting. But being at the university, first of all, Maine is a lovely place. And it was a time in my life where I needed to be somewhere, you know, quiet and restorative. So I have nothing but nice things to say about Maine and its people and the school there. And actually, there were some professors who were weirdly brilliant and exiled there. Like, you are teaching at the state university. You're like the most brilliant Platonic scholar in the Northeast, but you did something unspeakably wrong, and so you get exiled. So you can't be like the public figure that you normally would be. And this was a long time ago, before Me Too, before all this. And I remember a specific guy who did something bad, and the only place he could get tenure was the University of Maine. But he was, I'm not going to name names, but he was the most brilliant Platonic scholar in the Northeast. And I'm in his class just blown away by the guy's mind, except he did something bad. And by the way, he married one of his students. And he's got a whole, you know, script that can be written about his story.
So you already were exposed to characters like your professor, characters like others who went to the same classes. Were they did you make any new good friends there, or were you somebody
I like to observe people. I mean, this is a thing. I'm more on the introvert side of that, and I even have like a little guide on how to deal with introverts.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I mean, but it's not really for me because later on, when I was at Focus Features, I took a leadership class on natural and adapted styles. Mm-hmm. And so your natural style might be to be introverted. But because you work in the storytelling business, you have to get really good at pitching and storytelling and appearing to be extroverted when really you're an introvert. Mm-hmm. So you're masking. I mean, I feel like I'm often wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. And I wear the mask of someone who can come and talk to you on camera and be an extrovert, and on the 20th, I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna talk to a room full of people, and I'm gonna appear lively and intelligent and all these things. But really I just need, you know, the downtime. You know, I need to restore somehow. And, you know, there's all sorts of different kinds of people. I had a boss once who said it takes all sorts of different kinds of people to make the world go around. And if you start like observing people, everybody's a character, man. It's so great. Like, I lived in New York City 11 years. You ride on a subway car, in one car you got 50 stories. You got 100 stories. And on a continuum timeline of storytelling, like that's a lot of storytelling. That's just in one car. And I used to have this little like fantasy, okay, we get stuck in the tunnel. Who's gonna eat who? Who's gonna, you know, love who? Who's gonna align with who? What's like Lord of the Flies? What's gonna happen here in this car? What's gonna happen? And that's what I'm doing on my morning commute. I'm like Lord of the Fliesing this subway car.
That's one way to live life, perhaps the best way to live life.
I think when I was coming up with like what are the really the best reasons to be alive, number one is the absurdity of life. Life is absurd. And if you look around and appreciate the absurdity of life with a smile, a laugh, and a, you know, and you just don't, it'll be a question later about taking things seriously or not on set. And obviously when you work, you have to, you know, work in a purposeful, determined way to get the results you want. But if you can look at life as absurd and have a laugh, you'll get through it.
Yeah, I usually say one man's tragedy is another man's comedy.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's interesting you say that because when you start talking about comedy, physical comedy travels. Physical comedy, you know, somebody slipping on a banana peel, aside for as long as nobody gets hurt, is funny in America and is funny in Russia and is funny in Germany and is,
Right.
you know, it travels around the world. And then when you get to the kind of comedy where you have to like tell a joke, and stand-up comedy doesn't necessarily travel because it might be referential, it might be specific to that, you know, geography, whatever. And it might, you know, it might be a specific person's point of view that doesn't translate over to everybody. So stand-up comics have a very, very hard job, actually.
So that's an interesting subject matter that we talk about. What stories translate to different audiences and what story resonates with a person.
Yeah.
I want to fast forward today because we were back in time and now fast forwarding today. Since then, you played an essential role in making projects and movies come alive, and I assume each have their own very audience different. Wow, I'm so good at
Wow,
this.
you're gonna start that one over.
Yes, we're gonna cut this. So
Here we go again.
I assume each have their own audience expectations, and I want to ask you, how much does a platform or an audience shape the story before you even start shooting?
Well, I think there are a lot of different ways to talk about that. So I was very proud to work at Focus Features for a long time, for 11 years. There's a specific ethos in that. We used to call it art house, smart house storytelling. And that was a sort of unique thing that actually a man named Jack Foley coined. He was in distribution and he understood the audience. And some of the really great filmmakers that I worked with were in distribution because they thought about the audience first. You know, even to the extent that people are now watching vertical content.
Yeah.
Right? So
Which I don't think is any bad.
It's not bad. So, yeah, I mean, and this is the story, is a few weeks ago, we were in the European film market. There was a round table of producers, and there was a question, will you work on vertical content? And it was no, 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 no. And they got to me, and I was like, sure, why not? Because if that's the way that people are consuming storytelling, you know, storytelling, since it was around the campfire, is about the transference of wisdom. Right? Transference of like something greater than ourselves and how to hand it over from one generation to the next, maybe. And you have to go to where the audience is. If this is the way that people are going to absorb content, if this is the way that people are going to absorb wisdom, then you have to reach them. And if you're not, so Focus's specific ethos was art house, smart house, and then it had a sister company, Rogue Pictures, which was about genre stuff, but like elevated genre, like Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz, which are two great sort of elevated genre films, and films that I like. And a Focus movie is now in my DNA. A movie like Lost in Translation, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Brokeback Mountain, Motorcycle Diaries, Milk. You know, we made a lot of movies, and I can talk about the international side where there were movies that we sold that we didn't actually produce, but I worked on a lot of those types of movies. Movies like Cloud Atlas or, you know, Almodovar films or Woody Allen movies or things like that. And I got to work on those movies even though we didn't produce them over at Focus. So I was between these two worlds, and I was in the best possible place to also see how independently financed stuff is put together for an audience. That audience being the distributors of the international territories, which is how movies really used to be principally financed, was you had a bunch of distributors around the world, and they would all contribute to the budget of the film, and sometimes you'd have the budget covered before you even made the movie, you know, by just pre-selling the international territories. That's not how movies get made anymore, sadly. I mean, it's a piece, but it's not. You have to think about your audience. And Focus always was trying to reach that art house, smart house crowd. They would platform releases, like you release in 10 theaters and build word of mouth. And if you couldn't build great word of mouth, or if the reviews were bad, then you wouldn't spend too much money promoting the film, and you would manage your downside. And if you did get everybody's attention, like Brokeback Mountain, first was released in 10 theaters, and then it was 100, and then it was 1,000, and then it was 1,700. And it played at 1,700, whatever it played, and then it played down. But it was nominated for Best Picture, and so it played for a long, long time. And you could feel that you were making a difference. You get letters in the mail that said, "Thank you, I understand my son better now. I understand that my son's love for his partner is no different than my love for my wife." And you get that letter in the mail, and we'd have a corkboard and we'd put it up, and it meant something. And when you get to make, and I'll say something later about we get to do this job, when you get to make a movie like that, it touches you in a completely different way than, a lot of content that is out there. So, we used to say the right people will get it. And
still get it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I mean, it's a changing business. It's harder than ever to reach people. Viewership is very fragmented. It is very hard to do the calculus on how to get to, that. And I remember we were making some Laika films, which were animated projects like Coraline. So we released Coraline, and Laika was also kind of, aligned with Nike's marketing team. So Nike's marketing team was telling our marketing team how to get the Coraline audience, which was the adventure, it was the 14-year-old adventure girl. And it's that's so specific, for a movie that expensive. You can't just go after 14-year-old girls. You can't. You need, everybody wants what's called a 4-quadrant hit.
What's that?
Right, that's young, old, men, women. Mm-hmm. Right, it's everybody. Mm-hmm. It's everybody. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants young, old, male, women, male, female. And you can't always have that. But the budget of your film will correlate to what you're expecting to get out of it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's why you see a lot of genre stuff being produced. That travels, horror travels. If there's creaking down the stairs and then something jumps out at you, it doesn't matter if it's in English or German or, whatever.
We all understand it.
Theoretically, yes.
Yes.
And I just hope for quality, because one of the things that actually makes me, and I have not become cynical about films and filmmaking, because every year when somebody says there's nothing good out, I say there's 20 or 30 great films that were made this year. You haven't been exposed to everything that's out there to see those 20 or 30 films. Now, it is the case that 1,000 films got made, and there are those 20 or 30 that are really, really, really worth seeing, but they're there. It is very, very hard now to know where to look, to dig through these platforms. And some platforms have a focus on quality over other platforms. So, and I think most people only subscribe to, 4 platforms, right? So it's Apple, Netflix, whatever. And I have a few more, but it's even harder for me because I'm across 7 different things, and I'm what? The new season of The Boys? Well, I didn't even know. And it's weird, a new Steven Soderbergh film will come out and not be on my radar.
How come?
And that's weird, because I'm exactly the guy that knows when the new Steven Soderbergh film is coming out. And when it lands on Netflix, and I don't know, no, actually it was David Finch, I think was the real example. I'm how did I not know there was a new David Finch film coming out? Where did this move? I'm just not. But when I was a young man, I was spending all my time on Ain't It Cool News, 6 months in advance of the movie coming out, trying to figure out what's in the movie, and
there's still happening like that. For example,
that was me, but I've passed the baton on that on to the other.
Now
generation.
there are YouTube channels who do this actually,
sure.
and they follow through every second differences in trailers, and it's that little portion of the video was actual reference to this character's past.
No, people care. I mean, it's good that people. I think people. That's great that people care.
I watch
that
it.
Should be encouraged. And when filmmakers are. I think there are probably only a few filmmakers like Christopher Nolan who are ultra secretive about, everything they do because their brand is so big
Yeah.
that it doesn't really matter if, if someone gets some tidbit of like insider info and spills it. Like it's more damaging to them than the promotion of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only a few filmmakers like that. I think we were making a live action adaptation of an anime series called Knights of the Zodiac. There were some very, very, very excited fans in South America. And I was always like, this is fantastic. These guys are following the production. They're actually trying to link. But it was funny too because, like, I don't want to say, I had a limited role on the movie, right? Like we were in our lane. I would put it to you that way. We weren't producing this movie. We were in our lane as a service provider, which we can talk about that if you want or not. But they were trying to link like people to other people, and it felt very like you're like, they're trying to link me to this like girl who's like I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah, you went to the same coffee shop once.
I like center the photo. I'm like, they're linking us on this YouTube channel. Like, that's strange.
Yeah. Well, this
That's
is an amazing time to live in, I think, because there are many mediums, many secrets, many open secrets even out there.
Whoa, where? I don't think I received this question in advance.
And so there's this media theorist who's called Marshall McLuhan, and he says that the medium is the message. I wanted to ask you, does that resonate with you in any way, or would you rather say that there's a freedom for expressing great ideas in many ways?
I reflected on that. I don't resonate with it.
Okay.
What I resonate with is the personal is universal, and I think that's actually a better way to say the latter of what you were saying. That being, if you care about something in your life, if something's important to you, if something happened to someone you know or love, and you feel like you want to tell that story, chances are somebody else cares about that story too. The personal really is universal. When you're having a mental health problem, a million other people having the same problem, and it's going to resonate with them. Now, it might not be, 4-quadrant hit, and so the story you tell has to be budget appropriate. Right? You have to think about that, like, not everybody gets to ride a dinosaur in their dream, whatever it is. But, then you tell that story at that budget level, right? Like if you can tell a story about, your experience with the Catholic Church and, as a boy or whatever, nothing bad happened to me. I grew up a Catholic. It was fine. It was all good. Mm-hmm. But if you want to tell the story of your experience growing up in a Catholic community, that's going to resonate with a lot of Catholics, right? And you're going to be able to draw from that community for finance perhaps, and, this kind of thing. So I honestly do think the personal is universal, and people should tell stories that they're passionate about. And if you're directing, you have to be obsessed with what you have to say. And I think this is a big, sometimes people ask, if I'm a director, I directed all 4 days on a short film. But I can tell you that you have to really want to say something. And if you don't, you should probably be producing. I mean, that's not.
That's funny that you say that.
I think there are a lot of different forms of. There are a lot of different forms of producing. Not I think there are definitely a lot of different forms of producing. But if you are directing a film, you have to be totally obsessed with what you're saying and what you have to say. And if you really are only half-heartedly telling the story, then it's maybe just content, or maybe you should rethink. Like why you have to, this is a very hard business to make it in, and to make movies in, and to get movies financed in. This is a very tough business, and I'm very privileged I get to do this. We made 30 movies and shows since we started Hero Squared.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, they were all hard work. And you're going to ask another question soon about production.
That's right. Well, for example, this was an amazing segue, perhaps, to, I think, one of the most renowned and recognized and awarded films that you made to this date, which it was one of your films called
Infinity Pool.
Infinity Pool.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, and it was nominated by the Canadian Screen Awards for the Best Picture and received an additional 10 nominations alongside that. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you. It lost to Blackberry, which is also a good movie.
Yeah. I have a question though.
Yes.
So my question is about the pre-production stage and your feel and understanding. So do you know sometimes in the pre-production stage or perhaps before that a film will be truly remarkable, and what is that feeling like?
The answer is yes, absolutely. If you have good taste. And I think it's not inherent to me, it is inherent to how I was raised and grew through focus, that I read a script, I can tell you what's going to be really remarkable. And I gotta say, with all due respect to all the work we do, there have only been really a couple handfuls of scripts that have really been truly, truly exceptional when you read them and you're like, I gotta make this movie. And Infinity Pool was one of those movies. You read the script, you're like, this is gonna be amazing. And you know what? We made the movie, and again, we're privileged in that was not a service job. That was an international co-production. The difference being, production services, a lot of what we do here in Budapest, sometimes you do a country co-production, which is we help bring money into the process, right? Which is a different form of producing. And sometimes you're attaching a country just so that another country will give more money. That's still helping to raise money. Mm-hmm. So, we can talk separately about how Hungary is as a co-producing partner, but that gets a little political and probably rather not do that. But the point is, when you help raise money on a movie, especially a movie like that, which is provocative and sexy and violent, is very interesting genre movie, and very visionary director Brandon Cronenberg, very visionary guy. And Karim Hussein is a fantastic DOP. And that movie I'm always going to be exceptionally proud of. It is not for everybody. My mom watched it and she was like, I didn't hate it. It's like, thanks, Mom. She's like, well, I read all the reviews beforehand, so I was ready for what it was going to be. Now, my mom loves Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, which was another country co-production that we're very proud of. And it's a very, very heartwarming film.
And it was nominated for an Academy Award.
It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Costume. Jenny Bevan, who's an incredibly talented costume designer and has won multiple Oscars. And Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris is a Focus Features movie. And it was incredibly gratifying that Focus bought both domestic and international on Mrs. Harris. Focus bought international on Infinity Pool, which was extremely gratifying to work for a production company for a long time, making other people's movies, and then they buy your movie. I can't tell you how gratifying that is. That is amazing. And then when you see their logo and your name in the billing block, you're like uplifted the rest of your life. That's when you put that poster on your wall and you're uplifted the rest of your life. And it's just like, that's amazing. So Infinity Pool, truly great film. Mrs. Harris, truly a heartwarming great film. And there are, a handful of other things that are just so, those are the kinds of things that you want to make. To say something or to uplift somebody or to transport somebody. And I hope that even in the worst case scenarios, when we made a movie that I thought, okay, this is just content, at least it transports somebody, for a time to another place and it makes them laugh or uplifts them or something. Or just makes them say like, that was fucking stupid. But at least it made them feel something, and at least they took the time to watch it. So God bless you and thank you.
One can call that magic, and I want to ask you about this magic because making movies is just as much of a magic as often the movie itself. And so to help the flow of that magic, there are guiding principles often and rules set for us to follow and practice. Now, I don't have an MBA, but you do. And so you also went to NYU Stern.
I did.
And I'd be
Excellent
curious.
School.
Yes, tell me more.
Okay.
I'd be curious.
because it's a two-part question. So let's do part one is about NYU Stern.
Yeah, I'd be curious to ask.
So
what was that like
this
for
is
you?
where I covered up my inelegant past, right? So my undergraduate degree was in political science, and I kind of thought I was going to go into politics, which was not. I didn't actually think I was going to go into politics. And I had the opportunity. I was at Focus. Focus was owned by NBC Universal, and NBC Universal was owned by GE at the time. And I discovered that there was a hack that in GE, an engineer could go get an MBA for free, have it be reimbursed by the company.
That's amazing.
Right. And I was at the same band level, corporate speak, I was at the same band level as this person over in GE. And I perceived that I could get tuition reimbursement and go to grad school for free. So I discovered that hack. This is, again, like, I never had money. So I discovered that hack. It's the quiche kapu for those in Hungary. It's the quiche kapu.
Quiche kapu is like the little door that gets you entrance there.
I'm always looking for the quiche kapu. I'm a natural Hungarian.
Yeah.
So I found the quiche kapu to get.
By the way, I think this is interesting to you. Sorry for interrupting, but
go
like
for it.
even there's a quote in the Bible that the road to hell is open.
Night and day, long as the slope and slippery as the way. It was Virgil.
Yes, but the road to heaven is through a little gate.
Oh!
And that's where this
I love
whole
it.
concept of the Hungarian cultural idiom comes from, that you find the little gate, you find a kiskaput to heaven.
I'm actually thrilled that I learned that. I'm going to borrow that and steal it and use it all the time. Because that's the way into heaven, my friend. Is the quiche kapu.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in the film business, I think your way into heaven is the quiche kapu. So I'm gonna thank you. I actually think, on a personal note, I think if you care about people, you're not going to hell. Mm-hmm. As I say that as a Catholic, and I had a Jewish father, and I thought a lot about heaven and hell and where we're going. And I think if you care about people, you're not going to hell. So I think all you have to do is just try to care about people as much as you can, and I think you're going in the right direction, on a personal note.
That's perfect.
But so this is about NYU. So on my first day at NYU, I was there for free. I was like, well, not really. I mean, you had to advance some money to get it reimbursed. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
The point is, I'm there, and they tell me on the first day, you're probably not going to remember much of what you learn here. You will have a lot of friends, you will make friends, you will have colleagues, you will network well. But what you are saying by being here, you are signaling to the world that you're committing 2 years of your life, or whatever it is, and this amount of money to get this degree. This is a message to the world about who you are, that you are going to show up to this program, you're going to show up to these classes, you're going to make it through this program, and you're going to have an MBA from NYU. And I was stunned, because I had never heard anybody say, you're probably not going to remember much of what we teach you here. And you know what? That's probably right.
At least it's honest.
That's probably right, but I remember that. And it's more than honest. It's so real that that's life, man. Like, you have to live, and you have to show people who you are. And I'm a person who spent 2 years, and I put in that time. And yeah, I'll tell you, I went to school at night. Sometimes I closed my office door during the day, and I did my homework at work. That happened. Of course that happened. But I put in time and effort to get that degree. And when I got it, and one of the best things about NYU Stern was being the sister school of NYU Tisch, which is the art school. So when I finished over here, I started doing guest lectures over at Tisch, talking to the art students about the business of filmmaking.
Wow.
Because, and by the way, Lady Gaga went to Tisch. I never had Lady Gaga in my class. But
maybe one day.
But Lady Gaga went to Tisch, and that's what we're talking about here, and is, performers, entertainers, people who are in the art school, directors, they didn't necessarily know the business of film. And it is a creative business. And the idea was help them get a sense of the environment.
Can you,
so
can I
that they
ask you
don't get
about
ripped
that?
off. You know, so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't get ripped off by their agent or their manager, or like, you know, so that they knew something about something. And those were guest
I'd love
lectures,
to ask
but
you
I
about
love
this.
doing them.
So,
Yeah, I mean, that was my first, that was really where I got started doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
You know, talking to people about filmmaking, storytelling, and the business of it.
what were some of the guiding principles that you like teaching to people?
I will check my notes on this. I mean, when you get into the real specifics, we talked a little about it for directors. One, be obsessed. Have something to say and be obsessed with saying it, because nobody else is going to care as much as you. The studio will probably try to crush you. They'll have their notes. They'll have their things they want to say. Unless you have a clear sense of your vision, it is not going to get through. If you have a very clear sense of your vision and you are strong enough to push it down people's throats, then you will probably get, you know, 80 to 90% of what you wanted. And like, for example, Brandon Cronenberg has vision. He knows exactly what he wants. He knew he wanted a Tolkien language developed that was a real language. And we had to pay, this is fine to say actually. We had to pay, I think, 25,000 Canadian dollars or US dollars or something to have this linguist develop this language. Now, the bean counters, let's just take off one hat and put on another. The bean counters would say the art department can make up something, right? But Brandon said, I want a real language developed. I want it to feel real. And I want that, you know, I want those letters and that font to look and feel real and make us feel like we're transported to another place. And he had the power to get what he wanted. So, vision, you know, have it. If you're a director, have it. You know, producers, there are some producers who just protect the director, you know, and that's like a specific, you know, once you get in the nuance of this, prep. Very, very, very specific thing. Prep is everything. Prep as much as you can. European cinema versus North American or American cinema, Hollywood. These are very different places. Europe, development. Develop the project. Develop the characters. Make them feel real. Inject texture into them. Hollywood, put a star in a role. Right? Like, that might not feel real. That character might feel thinly portrayed. But there is a big name that is playing that character.
Yeah,
and that's what they care about. And that's because it's a commercial. So over there, movies are financed purely in the marketplace, purely commercially. You have to put it together just that way. In Europe, there's money devoted by countries, devoted by their arts councils to filmmaking. And in Canada too, which is great. Canada's practically European. and for a lot of, it counts as European for a lot of things. And they got money and they put it into filmmaking and they want to put it into films that have something to say and that feel textured. Development is so important. If you want to make a good film, make sure you have something to say, develop it for a long time. Working Title is a company that I deeply admire, and Focus Features worked with a lot. The guys at Working Title, I went to a panel and they said sometimes they develop a project 10 years. Getting the script right, getting the right director on it with the right vision, and then finally making it after 10 years. And that's why they're so massively successful, because they just put their heart and soul into it and getting it right. And if you're not doing that, if you're just purely cynically just attaching elements and then just, then you're gonna get content. And again, content can transport one to another place. It can be okay. But I wish for something more.
And more is often found in the niches and interesting subject matters, I feel.
It can be.
Yeah.
I mean, but also they can be big films too. I mean, like, just off the top of my mind, something like Split, right? Where you had James McAvoy, you had one man and his incredible performance, right? And you have a very talented filmmaker who, I mean, M. Night Shyamalan, like, he took his hard knocks too. Like, he was in, then he was out, then he was in. Like, he's been up and down, as all of us have been in our lives. We're up or down. But I mean, what a filmmaker to be able to, across his entire career, have 4 or 5 films that you're like, that movie was incredible, that movie was incredible. Some directors, maybe they get 1 that's incredible, or none.
Yeah.
Or none. M. Night Shyamalan's had a career, I mean, what admiration I have for the guy. Even though there are films he made that I didn't love, that doesn't matter. He had 4 or 5 films that were just, everybody remembers. And one of my mottos, I forget if this is this question or not, but one of my mottos is you have to see movies to make movies. You have to love movies to make movies. And when our crew do interviews, because a big part of my job is sort of, and I don't mean translating from Hungarian to English, I mean translating from culture to culture. You'll be in an interview and the director will be sitting with the local set deck team. And he'll say, what are your sci-fi influences? Mm-hmm. And they'll say, we don't have time to see movies. We're too busy making them. And I'm like, no. I'm like, what they mean? And so and then you have to explain. And then it's a service culture, too much sometimes. And then he'll say, well, just tell me some of your film influences. And they're like, no, honestly, we don't see movies. We're just too busy. I'm like, this is the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
You have to live and eat and breathe movies and stories to tell great ones, and it's not about stealing. It's about vocabulary.
Right.
It's about language. It's about filmic language. It's about visual language. It's about colors. It's about style. Yeah, maybe you have your own completely new, completely brilliant thing that you're doing that nobody else has ever done before. But chances are you're going to be influenced by lots of things. I mean, Tarantino is influenced by lots of things.
Yeah.
Tarantino saw a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And then he made some great ones.
He used to work in a shop that was like
video
selling
shop.
Cassette tapes, I think,
Totally.
or something like that.
Yeah.
What was it, Blockbusters actually, or something like that?
I think it was not. I don't think it was like a name. I don't think it was a brand name. I think it was like a lowly video shop. One of those like local video. I don't 100% know, and someone will fact check.
I don't know
me.
either, but yeah.
But yes, that is the point. Is he saw a lot of movies and he loved them, and then he made movies.
Yeah.
And God help us, please. If you're out there thinking about being a filmmaker, please love making movies. If you're out there thinking about being an actor or an actress, please love movies. Please see a lot of them. And then go train to be an actor. This is for actor. I did not go to film school. But what I did do is love movies. And I just watched them. And now I'm a certain kind of producer, right? I didn't go to film school. I can't tell you about lenses. I can't tell you about exactly who makes how much money. I mean, really. I'm not a line producer. I can't tell you those things necessarily. I might know what high-level people make, but not everybody. So I've got one specific skill, and it's storytelling, and that flows into sales a bit. Like sales is storytelling.
But it's more than that.
Well, I mean, there's a psychology to it too. I mean, sitting down and talking to people and listening to their problems, and then crisis resolution. Obviously, that's a thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? Honestly, that's just shared storytelling. That's finding common ground and telling a common story together, and then resolving the problem because now we have a common story that we have to tell together to each other, and so really, I could justify that everything is storytelling, really.
And stories can make our lives actually. So however somebody reacts to a situation, maybe due or thanks to the stories that they have grew up, learning, or learned from a friend, or learned from a situation they had before, or they just have a core identity that gives them a story that they believe that they should follow through on. And so I want to ask you about this, and it's a funny story actually. So a friend of mine from Ireland, who's an actor and a director, once told me at a shooting that I shouldn't worry too much. Matter of fact, I should approach the whole shooting with this mindset that things might just work.
It might just work out.
Yeah. At first I found that super funny because I think it's funny, but as I had more experience, I realized that this advice can be super useful given that there are always so many moving elements to each set, and coordinating them is a known challenge. So do you have a motto you like sticking to? You mentioned before But I want to ask you again, do you have a motto you like sticking to on sets?
I have on set motto. Interesting. One thing we say a lot, and by the way, I think it depends on the answer to that, what he was feeling and thinking, depends on your role. Like if a director shows up and just hopes things are going to work out, no, my friend, no, my friend, and you follow the call sheet and you be there at your call time and you be professional, like, and put your phone away on set. Like, by the way, very, very astute actor once said, I clock the professionalism of a set by how many people are on their phone.
Oh.
And if you ban just people on their phone, in the old days, man, before I was making, I'm told these stories, it's not my story, but in the old time days, everybody was just working on making the shot, the next shot, as good as it possibly could be, right? And now everybody's on their phone in between, and that's not, and Christopher Nolan doesn't let you do that, right? Christopher Nolan doesn't let you, Ridley Scott doesn't let you do that. You know, put your phone away, because like you got to make the next shot the best thing that's ever happened. I mean, that's how you make a great film. That's how Ridley Scott makes a great film. That's how Christopher Nolan makes a great film. And these true professional people behave incredibly professionally. You know, and there's no drinking the night before a shooting day and staying up till 3, 4 in the morning, and then you get in the car and you smell of alcohol and the driver tells you don't do that. You get your sleep and you show up and you be a professional. And that's like, it's a creative business and everybody's hopefully gonna have fun and make friends and have professional friendships and all that, and maybe it translates into more, but it's all prep and it's all gotta be very professionally done. We do say everything gets done. It's just a question of how. Like when the thing is green lit and the money's in the bank and you're going, I hope you've got enough time for prep, which almost they never give you. They never give you enough time for prep. There's always 2 weeks less prep than there should. There's always 1 week less prep than there should be. You're already like halfway into prep by the time the money's, I mean, there's just these, there are some simple filmmaking mistakes that cost a film a notch. Right? Like it's good instead of great, or it's trash instead of okay, you know, and it's because it didn't prep enough, or the money wasn't there in time, or whatever. So everything gets done. It's just a question of how, and everyone should, you know, be very professional. And with respect, your Irish friend. With respect, that film's not just going to figure itself out.
Well, he was the director, so he was taking care of things. But I, as an actor, felt better.
He made you feel better. He's like, relax, son, relax. Everything just might work out. Well, and that might be his direction, dude. Like he might be very, he might be very precise.
And everybody is like sometimes directing different people differently, often. So 100%. That's a thing there.
That is a thing I know from all of 4 days of directing is different people require different. I always say actors are a toolbox of emotions, and you have to remember that. Like these are human beings that are put on screen because they can access their feelings and they can transmit them that way. Like that's very unique, and you can't treat that person like a gaffer. You know, they're not an electrician. That's a different thing. You know, like that's a technical skill. This is like, I might not be able to think about my dead parents right now. Like I'm in my trailer and I can't, you know, I've got something else going on. I can't do that right now. I can't do it the way I mean, if you're a professional and you've done all the training, you can that's great. But that's still a people business. And you got to really, really, really take care of people. If you're on your best day, you know, if you're at your best and if you're the best version of yourself, you're taking care of people the best you can.
That could be an amazing final note to end on, but there's a reoccurring question in this podcast that I keep loving asking. Yeah. Which is, what would be the question you wish more people would ask you?
I love the question. This is the poignant ending. So Sheryl Sandberg lost her husband. And after that, she said she hated when people said, "How are you?" She hated it. But what she liked better was, how are you today? And the reason is, and I talk about it like an iceberg. You know the iceberg. You only see this, and there's this beneath the surface, right? Like, you don't know what's going on with people. People have stuff going on in their lives. They might have tragedy. They might have mental health issues. You honestly don't know what's going on with people. And instead of just, I hope they'll be okay, instead in your head, I hope they'll be okay, ask if they've got enough support. Ask if they're going through something hard and if they need any help. You've got to realize that you don't know what's going on with people. And someone might be going through the absolute worst time in their entire life, and you might not know because they're showing up and they're being a professional. But how are you doing today? Or, do you have enough support? Or if you don't want to pry, just keep an eye on them in a way where, like, maybe you can help or find a way to help or find a person who can. I have been in the situation where I wasn't the right person to go reach out to somebody. And, I had to go find, a young girl PA to go reach out to, a young girl to talk about whether something had happened or not. And there was somebody else who could help. If you're in a bar and there's a dispute and you need to go find, so I've had to go find basically the toughest, smartest girl in the bar to go help a girl who needed help, in the ladies' room, right? Like, figure out a way to help. Figure out a way to take care of people. And ask the question, if you can, how are you doing today? Or do you have enough support?
I will keep asking these questions from this point on. Thank you so much for your time and your inspiration. It means a lot to me, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, it meant a lot to me too, man. Thank you.
Yeah. And for those interested in seeing you in person, they can see you in person on March 20th at the Green Room at the Marriott Hotel.
Cool. Sounds good. I hope to see everybody there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, cut.
Look at that.